Hello folks, thought I'd do an overview for Dusk Diver 2. I just wanted to wait until I finish the game, which I tend to do for most games. If I'm really not feeling a game, then I'll put out my thoughts and say like, hey, I didn't like this, but I actually really enjoyed this game and I'm working on the second playthrough right now. Now, I will say one thing before I start, and that is the price of this game. It is $50, so just a little under AAA price. I think that's a problem because, you know, this game is on PC and PS4 only, I think. So, it's going to be competing with the Yakuza games, and those games are on sale for, like, the price of a large pizza, like, every week. So, it's definitely a problem. I think this game sets itself apart enough from Yakuza combat, and the flow of the game and stuff is quite a bit different as well. So, it's not really an issue, but, you know, when you have a smaller game like this, and it's priced at the same price point as, you know, bigger games like the Yakuza games, which are very much still, like, not really AAA games either, but they have, like, way more content. The series has been around for a long time. It's going to be a hard sell for some people. I think it really depends on how burnt out you are in these kinds of games. I was actually gifted Lost Judgment. I probably will end up liking this game more because it does have, like, character action combat, but there's no denying that I did most of the things in the game on the first playthrough in about 16 hours. So it just depends on how much you really need to play a game before you feel like you've got your money's worth. I'm of the school of thought that once a game starts to overwhelm you or you're not having fun anymore, you shouldn't bother doing achievements or getting 100% or any of that boring stuff that just makes the game feel like a job. That's my thought. That's why there's games I have like hundreds of hours in that I haven't gotten all the achievements in, because I just don't find doing those menial tasks fun, but you do you. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, if you want to see raw gameplay, I put up some raw gameplay a couple days ago. I also streamed a decent chunk of my gameplay on the first playthrough as well, so go ahead and watch that too. So we're going to go ahead and skip the story, because I've hardly seen it. So this is your base. This is where you can buy things. There are actually a number of currencies in this game. If you played Tales of Destiny, you know how that game was set up where it's more realistic, where, you know, it doesn't make sense for monsters to have, like, the equivalent of $5 on them. It makes sense for them to have, like, I don't know, maybe something they digested or, like, their pelt or something. That's how it worked in that game. Basically, the monsters would drop lens, and then you would trade those in to get money that the humans would take. In this game, you have money. I guess they just call it... I don't know what exactly it's called in this game, but we'll just call it money. This game is set in Taiwan, but I guess they try to make it a little bit more ambiguous what the currency actually is, because, you know, generally in video games, they just say everything is a dollar, even though the game is clearly in, like, Japan or China or UK or something. It's still dollars. And then you have your Dragon Vein Wafer, which is what you use both to upgrade your character's moves and then also to buy battle items. So as you can see here, this is New Game Plus, so I have most things unlocked, but they actually give you an extra level for each active move in the game, so that you have something to use this currency on, which I think is pretty nice. Action games in particular are really susceptible to having, like, your currency gets useless, like, you know, maybe 90%, 80 to 90% through the first playthrough. Here, it's going to be useful pretty much, probably, like, maybe through the first half of the second playthrough, depending on if you try to max out everybody. So if you go here... See, these take Dragon Vein Wafers, so you can't use the human world money on these. But you can also sell the drops that you get from monsters. Like, I have these Chaos Beast shells, which I don't need anymore because I'm, like, really far above that in the progression. So I got about 10k gold for those, and then I could also get rid of these as well. So the gameplay loop is basically you want to upgrade your weapons, and then you want to sell the stuff that you don't need. You sell it for gold, and you use that to buy food. Money is basically only used for buying food, and food is very powerful in this game, so Basically, you want to upgrade everybody at the beginning of a chapter, and then with whatever excess materials you have, you want to sell most, if not all of them. I would recommend leaving at least some. I like to just put it at an even number. And then you'll have enough money to pretty much keep the gold going for the rest of the playthrough. Like, see, since this is the second playthrough, the upgrade limit for these gets unlocked. So, they actually added a lot of resource sinks for this, which is pretty shocking because I've played so many games where they like don't really balance the economy very well, and you run out of things to upgrade really fast. In this game, the second playthrough, the Dragon Vein wafers are actually going to be pretty scarce throughout maybe the first half or so. So you pretty much will have to focus on your specific party. Now, this might be mild spoilers. I don't really think anybody's going to be playing this game for the story, but if you care, go ahead and just skip ahead like maybe a minute or so in the video. Alright, here's your warning. So this game has a couple humanoid boss characters that you fight, and when you beat the game in New Game Plus, or when you beat the game and you unlock New Game Plus, you actually unlock them in your party, which is pretty cool. That's the kind of stuff that we've had to mod into Tales games for ages. They're pretty transparent with you. They tell you, like, look, they're not going to have as many moves as the main 4 characters, but you can still put them in the party. They're unique playstyles, and you just have even more stuff to use your currency on, which is pretty cool. And you can also control the party to your will. You can take the main character out. You can do solo runs and stuff. Coming from stuff like Tales, I think this is actually a pretty good progression of New Game Plus, where they basically take the limiters off. It's like, hey, you liked our game enough to finish it. You didn't refund it. You didn't trade it in. You kept it. You liked it enough to see the game through to the end. So we're just going to let you have fun. We're going to give you more things to grind on. We're going to give you pretty much complete control over the game. It's actually pretty awesome. But I'm only maybe a quarter of the way through the second playthrough, so I don't have too much unlocked with them yet. There is also equipment in this game. Equipment is mostly randomly generated. There are no actually random weapons. There are random gear. So these 3 slots here are all random, and you can put orbs on them. Now the way you get orbs is either by doing side quests or crafting from gear. So as you progress through the game, you will get more orbs to use. More orb recipes, rather, and then you have to use these recipes here to craft one. But it is RNG, so I feel like if you wanted to do a solo run for this game, you'd probably have to play it through a bunch of times, but side quests are pretty simple. I don't think they actually scale up in level like the enemies do, so the rewards don't really scale up. But, you know, if you're used to doing solo runs in Tales games, you kind of accept you gotta play through the game completely at least twice. It's not really too out of the ordinary for this kind of game. So there's a status ailment rate. Alright. So as you can see here, the city is Yakuza-sized, so it doesn't really overstay its welcome. There is like another couple hub worlds that you can access, but they're all pretty small. But it definitely has the Yakuza school of design, where they try to make it small so it doesn't take forever to get around and do stuff. But there's lots of things to do. There's lots of side quests and stuff, so you can still get around quickly, but there's lots to do. I definitely recommend doing most of the side quests because they actually give you really good rewards. The side quests themselves are definitely nowhere near the quality of the Yakuza games, but the advantage is that you get really good rewards for doing them, and they don't take too long. So doing the side quests at the beginning of a chapter is definitely recommended, because this game also has a pretty strict point of no return. Once you get towards the end of the game, you know, the usual part of RPG-type games where the world is creepypasta, and it doesn't really make sense to be going around and finding people's lost hamburgers and wallets and stuff. This game is actually pretty realistic about it. It's like, no, the world is in creepypasta mode right now. We can't be going around and doing menial side quests. So it actually is very important to do most of these when you can. Once you get to around chapter 9 out of 12, you'll be cut off past that point. So you definitely do want to go around and do these. Alright, so let's get into some fights here. So if you played the first Dusk Diver, that game was more of a Muso. There were a lot of smaller, dumb enemies. Like a larger amount of them. But it was more, you had to manage them like a Muso. Whereas in this game, it's more like a character action game. There's less enemies. You kind of have to deal with them like a character action game. So in this game, you can actually switch characters. There's actually a switch timer. You can use both for switching and for assists. So I wouldn't really call this a tag combo game, but definitely is some fun stuff you can do. It helps to increase the flow of the game. So let's get some combos going here. So also in battle, when you lock on and you push R2, you'll actually get that like pursuit dash thing. So you have moves with R1, and those will take your SP bar. They essentially function like stamina, but with the tag system and the buffs that you can get, it never really feels too intrusive. It doesn't really feel like it prevents you from having fun. So let's get to some more fights here. If you want to see mainline quests, you can go ahead and watch my playthroughs. My stream VODs will probably have what you want there. So I think it's time to eat some food here. So what I like to go for is Quick Switch. Quick Switch is very good because it allows you to switch and assist faster. So it helps to keep the gameplay flow up, because if a character runs out of SP, instead of waiting for them to recover, you can just switch to another character. And also, if you want to keep the pressure up on a boss, you can use assists to kind of keep them locked down and drain their armor bars so that you can stun them and do big damage. So we're going to put that on, and I think we'll do... I actually don't want to do damage right now because I'm trying to explain the game mechanics. Let's go ahead and do wafer drop rate. And then... Alright. So basically just got a CDR build right now. So tags and assists function on the same cooldown. Like, I just summoned her right now, and the cooldown is going to stay. Like, she's got 1 SP right now. But if I wanted to switch out, the other characters actually will regenerate their SP while they're inactive. So I think Quick Switch was one of the things that really carried me through this game, besides just doing all the side quests. Side quests are very important in this game, but definitely don't expect them to be the same quality as the Yakuza games. They're working with a much smaller budget, of course, so you gotta temper your expectations here. So there's also a counter in this game. That's what I did there. The problem with the counter is the timing is really awkward. So you really only want to do it with Leo. Generally you want to do your just dodge, which is basically which time like that. I definitely think that's something they should improve in this game, but for now you just kind of accept that using a counter is very impractical. Not something you want to do most of the time. Most of the time you want to rely on just dodge and assist to control enemies. So this isn't going to be like the best tag combo game you've ever played, but it's surprisingly fun, and the tag system actually adds quite a bit of depth. It would be nice if the tag cooldown didn't go down for everybody when you tagged once, but with the quick switch, you're going to have a pretty consistent aggressive playstyle regardless. So there's basically one more thing to explain about the combat system, and I'll go ahead and I'll do that right now. Okay, so this is an armored enemy. So basically, the gameplay flow on these large enemies is actually pretty nice. you actually can combo them pretty well. Generally, you want to kind of keep the pressure up. Some moves will actually stagger hyper-armored enemies, even if they can't be juggled. So you want to keep using those moves and use assists or tagging to keep the enemy locked down. And then once you get the prompt to do the QTE, which is with L1 and R1, you want to get a couple hits in, then do that. That will knock them down, and then you can get another combo again. So compared to something like Tales of Arise, I think that they handle armored enemies a lot better in this game. Which is pretty pathetic when you think about it, because this game is made by probably like 20 people. It's not made by Bandai Namco of all things. Anyway, last thing to explain would be burst mechanic. So we'll switch to her. So you see on the left side of the screen, that is your burst meter. So as you do damage to enemies, that bar will fill up, and will basically build up to a finisher. It's kind of hard to show with small mob density, but basically when you fill it up, you'll be able to do a big finisher attack at 160%. And if you get to 180 or 200%, you can do an even better one. So in big fights, it can be pretty beneficial to actually try to get up that far, because pretty much all the characters have a massive hitbox on their burst finisher, so you can use it to either thin the crowds or do heavy damage on a boss. I definitely comboed a bunch of the human bosses, like this character here, next to Behet, the guy with the blue hair. I used that kind of gameplay rotation to just kind of keep them in hit stun. This game is actually a lot of fun. I think it's really solid. I definitely didn't like it that much at the start, because the food system, it took too long to deplete, so you couldn't really eat a lot of the food, but they actually pushed a patch for this last week that fixed that, so that the stomach or the hunger gauge goes down a lot faster. That allows you to eat food more often. You get the experience boost from that, and then you can also you get experience boost from using the food once for the first time. But then you can also change your buffs around as you see fit. So generally you want to put quick switch and crit strike, crit rate up, or damage up when you get to a boss or when you go into the demon realm. So there's one more thing I actually forgot to explain here. This game does not have standard RPG leveling, so if you come from stuff like Tales, where everybody gets the same experience, or like Pokemon where there's experience share, you don't have that here. In this game, you have basically a big pool of experience, and you hand it to your characters as you see fit. But there are also permanent items that will give you a permanent stat boost in that particular category. So what I did is I gave most of those to Yumo, but I actually like playing a lot of the other characters. I feel like if you only focus on her, you're going to have a problem sometimes, because she'll be out of SP and you want to switch to somebody else. They'll either not do much damage, or they'll just kind of be a paperweight. I definitely think it's good to focus on 4 characters at the start, and then just keep trying to build them up as you go. But you will not have any kind of experience share in this game at all, even after you finish the game, so you will have to kind of build up your characters as you see fit. Also, equipment has a hard cap on when you can equip it, so you generally want to get a character, if you care about using them, you probably want to get them to at least level 40 before you even consider putting them in your party, especially on New Game Plus with the new characters and stuff. But it's pretty simple. It's pretty obvious what some characters should really spec in. Like, her burst is really good, and she's a fast attacker, so I buffed her power and luck so that she has a high crit rate, and she can stay in burst for longer, which allows her to pretty much just burst bosses down really fast, and also will help in big mob fights as well. There are some Muso-style mob fights in this game, but there's definitely a lot less of them than there were in the first game. They're definitely trying to go for the less is more approach, where there's less enemies on the screen, but they're more dangerous, and you have to actually pay attention to what you're doing. So for the first playthrough, you're probably not going to have too much experience to really mess around with everybody. I recommend just buffing Yumo as much as you can. Use all the permanent stat increase items on her, and that will give you a lot more of your experience pool to use on the other characters you enjoy playing. They're all pretty fun to play in their own right. They don't really feel like they suffer from Tails syndrome, where only the protagonist has like the most fun and the most in-depth moveset, and the other characters kind of feel like they get the short end of the stick. They're all pretty fun to play in their own right. Leo, for instance, is very slow. He's the stereotypical slow but hard-hitting character. The thing about him is the counter system in this game really sucks. It's very awkward to use. It's very impractical. It doesn't really feel like you get a good reward for using it versus the risk of taking damage. But he just has a straight-up block, so you can block cancel. You can switch to him, block cancel, and get the counter, and then you can switch to somebody else and use their moveset if you don't like him. Anyway, that's basically it. That's a overview for Dusk Diver 2. I really enjoy this game, but I feel like right now, Lost Judgment just magically came out on PC despite all those agency issues and stuff they had. This game is $10 cheaper than that, so it's going to be a hard sell for most. I think if you like Yakuza-style gameplay, but you also like character action combat, you'll probably feel right at home here. Also, there's not really an overwhelming amount of side content. There are a lot of side quests and stuff, but most of them can be cleared in like a couple minutes or less. You will want to do them for the progression of your accounts, your save file and stuff, but for the most part, I never really felt overwhelmed in this game. It doesn't pad itself out too much. I did feel at the end there was quite a bit of padding, like they really wanted to draw out the few boss fights they had left as long as possible. It got a little exhausting at the end, but I still was able to finish this with most of the side quests being cleared in about 16 hours. So take that as you will. I think this game is worth it. You might want to wait for a sale. It depends on if you have played the other games like this. If you played the Yakuza games to death and you're looking for something fresh that's in that style but has a very different combat system, then I think you won't mind the price, but you can buy like most of the Yakuza games for the price of this on sale, and those games are on sale like every month, so the value is probably not where it should be. This definitely feels like one of those games where they don't really understand the market and what they're competing with, where Yakuza 0 is like 80 hours of gameplay and it's like $5 all the time. This is 10 times more, and I finished a vast majority of the content. I finished pretty much every side quest I could find. I was still able to finish it in under 20 hours, so it's really your call. I think this game is great. I hope that they balance a couple more things like the counter system and make it actually worth using. But the New Game Plus in this is like freaking awesome. As a Tales veteran, I think it's cool to see a much smaller team with a much smaller budget and dev team really deliver a good New Game Plus that actually gives you new things to do. It gives you whole new characters. There's more things to unlock. You can improve your character's builds and stuff. It's not just a victory run. The game actually does scale up as well. I think that's probably this game's biggest claim to fame, is that it feels like the New Game Plus is actually worth doing. In a lot of these games, it just kind of feels like a victory run. Tales of Arise had that problem, but that was kind of more of a side or byproduct of they were delayed by COVID, and then also they got rid of a lot of the stupid missables in that game. So second playthrough, you could do everything. You could do everything on the first playthrough, and there wasn't really anything to do. I think this game gives you so much stuff to do it after you beat it. So I definitely will play through this again. Maybe I'll do some solo runs as well. Anyway, I hope that helps. I definitely recommend this game if you can stomach the price. I know it's a hard sell compared to the RGG Studios games, but I think it stands on its own 2 feet, even though it's obviously not going to have as much content and meat as those games. Thanks for watching.